Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT Americas Week 3 Power Rankings. This week in Americas was not great. There were quite a few bad games, we'll say, that kind of led to some upsets, some unexpected results within Americas. I think a lot of it, I think there were a decent amount of bounce backs from Week 1, where a team looked really bad in Week 1, and they came in and actually looked really good in Week 2. But that being said, some of that was to do with the other team that they were playing against also not playing very well. So we'll kind of get into that with each individual team. But yeah, I mean, we're doing 4 tiers this week again. I usually do 5, but I think the middle of the pack in America is so close together that you have to do 4 at the very least. I mean, maybe you could argue 5 that we'll get into it with the bottom 2 teams, but I have them in the same tier, even though maybe you'd argue that they aren't even in the same tier together. So yeah, if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. Really helps me out. Also, go check out my Discord and my Twitter. Links are in the description. I post weekly player rankings on there. They should all be up for all regions for week 2. And then EMEA, the week has already started, obviously, and I think Pacific will have already started by the time this is uploaded. But those will be out at the end of the week, relative to when those weeks finish up. So yeah, go check those out if you're interested in that. I also talk about VCT both on my Twitter and on my Discord. So if you're interested in interacting with me in any way, shape, or form, you can go check those out as well. Also, my Twitch is linked in the description as well. I stream both on there and on this YouTube channel. Just doing whatever stream I really feel like doing. Like I'll stream some random games sometimes, or I'm planning on streaming some random games sometimes, and then I just never get around to it because I need like other people to play with. I'll try to stream some ranked at some point again, even though my fucking internet does not like doing that. And then I'll do like random other streams for like VCT stuff and Minecraft and whatnot. So if you're interested in any of that, go check that out and let's get right into it. All right, so we'll start with this relegation zone tier. Teams that will absolutely not be making playoffs under any circumstance. I mean, actually, one of these teams could sneak in um, if they get maybe one more win. But I mean, yeah, both these teams probably won't be making playoffs. That's Furia and 2G. I'm gonna be entirely honest with you guys. I did not watch the Sen Furia game this week. I had it up while doing other stuff and was not paying any attention to it because I knew what was gonna happen the whole time. I knew Sentinels was gonna win in some stomp fashion. Now I didn't think it was gonna be a 13-0, but I didn't even bother with this game. And the 2GG2 game, I paid more attention to, but I also didn't watch because I also knew what was going to happen. Now, I think a lot of people would say that 2G doesn't deserve to be in the same tier as Furia, and I fully understand that argument. But I think the reason I still have 2G in this tier is because A, they're going to get relegated at the end of the year, and I feel very good about that. But I also don't think they've done enough to go up into the next tier. Like they've won a map off of EG, and that's about it. Or EG just didn't look good, and I mean to be fair, EG hasn't looked good. Um, but yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about these two teams because they are both just bad. Obviously, Furia is much worse, but it's just not looking good for either of these Brazilian teams. Then we'll move up to Loud in the next year, who looked awful this week, like genuinely terrible. Um, I just it just not the same team as last week. Like they looked pretty good against Lev, and I think both teams actually looked good in that game. So I was fairly confident that Loud would head into this next week, maybe improve a little bit more on stuff. But when like reading up about this team and like listening to people talk, like apparently they're like mid round while Robbie is alive, like calming in I'm assuming Portuguese. Like say it's Cowan and Luke Show on one side of the map. Those two are speaking in Portuguese while Robbie is still alive as the IGL, and he like it's that's just so hard to call. I could not imagine trying to do that while also trying to focus on his own game. The system that system just seems god awful, and yeah, I don't know, man. Also, they went. I'm just reading this, like I'm looking at the scoreboard while talking about this. They went plus 3, 6, 7, 5. They went +5 on First Bloods on Haven and lost 13-4, which is just unbelievably bad. So I don't know. Like this team still has some good talent. I like Lucio and Verdi. The rest of it, though, I'm not super high on, specifically the system, and also this team is playing some comps that I don't think are very good, like this old Haven comp with the Breach is just bad. Some of the stuff that they were doing last week even like was kind of weird. Like on Bind, they hit A so many rounds in a row against Lev. I think it was them that were doing that, and like they're still playing just the basic bitch old comps. Playing the Sky Gecko on Bind, playing the default comp on Ascent, Icebox. I mean, I guess Icebox they're playing kind of new stuff with the Omen, but I think they're just gonna need their players to show up a lot more and maybe like just speak in English overall on the team to actually be in a better spot. And then moving on to our next team, Crew. I think they'll be better than they were this week against 100 Thieves, but man, they were bad. Dante has been to me, a very big disappointment, especially with how much Neon he's been able to play. He just hasn't been performing on that quite as much. Obviously, the Kesnit Sky was not good on Bind. That's not even the roles that I would have gone with either. I would have very much preferred Kesnit be playing the Brimstone, Melzer be playing the Viper, and then Mazzino be playing the Sky. I feel like that works so much better for that Bind comp than what their roles currently are. And if they want to play that comp, then that's fine. Just please, for the love of God, do not put Kesnit on Sky in that comp. It just makes literally no sense. To be fair, they're playing against a very good team in 100 Thieves, so I think they'll bounce back. They play loud, but they also didn't look like world beaters necessarily in week one against MIBR either, outside of that Ascent map. So you'd like to see them maybe pick into Ascent a little bit more, maybe play that against Loud and Lev and NRG in their last 3 weeks of the season. To be fair, these are probably their 3 easiest games on paper, like in terms of heading into the season. Those 3 teams I had rated in this kind of range. So I think Crew, if they are to be good, they'll kind of figure it out down the stretch here. I'm not like panicking about this team, but they haven't been good so far, so I have to put them down here. Then I have Lev, who beat MIBR this week. Very big win. The only reason they're not above MIBR yet is just because this team is new. They have a few new players in Sato and Okeanos, and I just want to see them do it again against NRG this next upcoming week. If they can do that, which I think is very possible, I think they'll be up into this like more top half of America's ish range, especially after looking good in week one. So overall, like a very good week from Lev. Sato was really good. There were some very funny moments. King was amazing. There was the Sato emote that everybody was really liking. Also, I think Sato posted a video on Twitter of Okeanos doing a like spinning on one of like the playground things, like and saying like Gira Oki, which is really funny. So the vibes on this team are at an all-time high, especially for Lev, with this org's history in Valorant. So you'd like to see that. Just I want to see maybe a tiny little bit more from them. And then we have NRG also having a pretty good bounce back week after week one. The IG link from Ethan looked so much better. This could just be a bind problem um, with this team. Like they looked good on Haven, especially on their attack side. Even I thought they were genuinely calling a good game. Now it wasn't like incredible or anything. Like I still have my doubts about the Ethan IGL, but this was the first time outside of like when NRG last year would play like Furia or MIBR, that I was genuinely like it genuinely felt good watching this team with Ethan IGLing. So we'll wait and see. I did say that Loud was really bad in that game. So again, we'll have to wait and see against Lev this week, especially after how bad they were week one. But the very, very good positive signs for NRG, especially with Mata playing significantly better this week than he did last week. That was kind of the one thing that I was looking for outside of the calling to look better was just Mata to be playing a lot better, and I think he did that. And then I have MIBR. Speaking of vibes, this is some of the worst vibes of a team that I have ever seen. Like, if this feels worse than Loud in 2023 and definitely worse than Lev in 2024. Like, Lev in 2024, you knew that Ospas was probably going to leave. Loud, you knew that was probably their last dance. But, like, this feels bigger than just Ospas in this team with the vibes feeling bad. This feels like a whole team problem. Switching IGLs midway through, nobody entering other than Verno on Lotus. Like, Art Scene was like I mean, this isn't even to do with the vibes, like with the art scene, but like he was lurking on Yoru a lot of that attack half, which I think some of it was good calling. Like Verno was using art scene on the opposite side of the map to like open the door, flash through areas, and fight and everything. And like I don't think the Verno IGLing looked terrible on Lotus attack side. Or no, wait, it was the what? Wait, I swear they started on the attack side on that map. But yeah, I don't think the attack side calling looked awful from MIBR. I think it was a lot of their execs and like their late round scenarios, and also like some of the calling making them get into worse late round scenarios on Lotus that kind of lost them that. And then Sunset, that was just bad overall. Like I don't like this double duelist Sunset comp when anybody plays it, other than like an occasional team that looks okay at it, but like it's just overall bad. Like, does Paper X play this? I don't think they do. I don't even think Paper X play double duelist on this map, which is like kind of crazy. Yeah, no, they don't. So like, I just don't like the Yoru raise, or not the Yoru, yeah, the Yoru raise on Sunset, and I think it's bad. I can see this team bouncing back potentially, but at this point, they've lost in terms of like VCT matches, one, two, three, four, five, 6 games in a row against varying difficulties of opponents. Like Lev and Crew, I predicted them in both of those games to win, and they just didn't. So I don't know, not great from MIBR. Obviously, yeah, I still believe in a lot of the talent on this team. Like a lot of the players actually are still good, I think, but just are not performing to their peak of their talents. And then we have EG. I had them number 4. No, I had them number 3 last week because everybody else in Americas just didn't look good enough to be there, and I had them number 4 coming in. So it's like, well, they didn't look that bad, so we'll keep them towards the top. Um, and I didn't feel comfortable bringing up like a C9 or 100 Thieves ahead of them. But now that they lost to C9, obviously C9 should be ahead of them. And 100 Thieves is ahead of them as well. I think it has not been more evident this year than right now that this roster is not good enough to compete in VCT. Like, you have Supa, who was really good, especially towards the end of stage 1, and is a very streaky player, and has been genuinely bad for this team this split. I've seen some people saying that I've underrated him in my player rankings, which is just insane to me. He's genuinely not been good in terms of like taking his whole sample size from all year. I would say he's been kind of mid for this team. Obviously he was really good last split, kind of been really bad this split, and I think he'll continue to be bad. Nature hasn't been the same individual player. Icy showed up during playoffs, and that was about it. Yay, I still think has some flashes in there, and I still think Derek's pretty good. But overall, like even the game plans from this team don't look good with Potter. So I don't know what that's about. Some of the agent flexibility stuff with this team isn't good either. I wanted to have them lower, but there was a lot of unproven teams that haven't done anything yet to prove that they're over EG. So I kind of have to have EG over them, but I think it's very likely that we end up with EG towards the bottom of this tier next week. After we see one of NRG, Lev, Crew, or Loud, or probably two of them look better than EG this week. I just don't see a world where I keep EG at the top of this tier. Then I think our top four teams are pretty obvious. In the good teams tier, I'm gonna have C9 and 100 Thieves. Um, we'll talk about C9 first because I mean, obviously we'll talk about them first because they're number 4 and 100 Thieves is number 3. That's how I do things. But C9, I still don't think had a true test. That's why they're at number 4. They've played Furia, who obviously isn't a test, and I think EG was just a bad matchup. Or I think also like C9 was a bad matchup for EG, in terms of like C9 having a ton of shooters on that team, especially during the regular season, and Oxy, Zeppa, and Vic, and EG not really having too many at the moment. Um, I just think C9 was overall the better roster in this game and is just going to win based off that as well. I don't really have too much else to say about C9. Like, just wait until the playoffs before I move this team above this spot, really. And then 100 Thieves looked very nice playing that double scan stuff on Corrode, which I thought was very interesting. Cass actually getting to play the scan initiator looking good as well. And then Bind, again, looking good for this team, as they do. Xander taking a lot of first duels. I didn't even realize he took that many in this map, but still going +3 anyways. Again, Cryo Yoru not looking amazing, but the Cryo Chamber did look good, so you'd like to see that. Crew wasn't very good in this game as well, but I still think they had they've had a better like sample size of teams in terms of like NRG did look good the next week, and Crew looked good, or at least like decent the week before as well. So we'll wait and see a little bit more with 100 Thieves. I don't think they'll have a true test honestly until playoffs. I would fully expect them to go 5-0 playing MIBR, Loud, and Lev these last 3 games, and I think they'll probably end up in my top teams tier as long as nothing goes terribly wrong for them. And then the top 2 teams, G2 and Sen. I said I didn't watch either of these teams' games fully, but I think G2 played well enough in that game with Baby Bay. And once Leaf comes back, I think this team will be the top team in Americas, and Sentinels will be number 2. So just depends on whenever Leaf comes back when those teams will move, but I'll keep them in the top teams tier for now. Maybe 100 Thieves will pass up G2 if Baby Bay is still on the roster, but overall, I think pretty clearly Sen, G2, and 100 Thieves are your top 3 teams in Americas. But yeah, these are my power rankings. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and let's head into the pick'ems. All right, now moving on to the pick'ems, where I think there's a few games that I feel good about, but also some pretty close games as well. Obviously, this is my 11th and 12th rated teams playing against each other in 2G and Furia. I think 2G wins this game pretty easily, honestly. We'll skip Leb Energy because that's a close game. Sen over Cloud9, I feel good about picking, but this is like a 55-45 game at best for Sen. And I think this should be a very entertaining game, probably the best match of the week within Americas. But also, like, I just think Sen's going to come through and win that game. Like, C9 don't win the big games. Like, they didn't even go undefeated last stage in the group stage. So I highly doubt that they'll do that again. And I think one of their few losses will be against Sen. Maybe the other one against G2 here. Then 100 Thieves over MIBR, pretty easy. G2 over EG, pretty easy. And then Loud Crew, I think, is another kind of difficult one, kind similar to Sen Cloud9, where I actually just feel good about picking Crew in that game as well. Even though this game is like, I'd say 60-40 towards Crew. And then Leb NRG, I think this is a true 50-50. Entirely depends on which versions of these teams we get in this week. As long as Bind isn't in the map pool, I think NRG will win. But if Bind does get through, I think Leb wins that map and potentially another one. within it. So it entirely depends on what the map veto looks like. Wait, let me check if energy banned bind against loud. They did not. They banned sunset. Do Lev did play sunset. I if NRG bans bind in this game, they'll win. I don't think they will, but also I'm not sure if bind is 100% going to get through, and I don't fully know where else Lev wins. Maybe like on an ascent, because I don't think they went on Haven. Road, I'm not sure. I haven't seen Lev's Corrode. Um, Lotus potentially. I'm swaying more towards Lev actually. And I think we like Lev wasn't even that bad week 1. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Lev. Okay. So these will be my pick'ems for this week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.